I want wool to be the hero of my wardrobe, like Joe is the hero of his farm. Welcome to Country Care to Clothing Flair, a 15-minute video where you can relax and listen about family farmers and the wisdom of wool. So sit back and relax, watch these videos and learn a bit more about wool and family farmers. There was always a sound of magpies in the pre-dawn dark that woke Joe the farmer. Before the sun dared showed its face over the rolling fields of his family property, Joe was already up, pulling on his faded flannel shirt with well-worn boots. To the world beyond the farm gate, Joe was just another weathered figure on the land, a face lost in the crowd, among thousands of farmers scattered across the Australian countryside. He was never much cared for the limelight. Joe had watched the evening news enough times to see the athletes hoisted on shoulders, their names in glitter, letters on trophies, their exploits cheered in stadiums, celebrated in memorial halls. He'd driven through towns where the local sporting heroes smiled from the framed photos, immortalised for their speed or skill, or the cup they brought home. Sometimes he wondered what it would be like if just once someone celebrated the quietly heroic deeds performed by farmers like him. But the world seldom did. Sometimes he wondered what it would be like if, just once, someone celebrated the quietly heroic deeds performed by farmers like him. But the world seldom did. No one pinned medals on the callous hands for coaxing a crop through the drought, or for a lambing season that ended with more survivors than losses. No one gathered to cheer as farmers braced against the wind and rain to save a calf, or worked through the fever to bring the harvest before the next storm. Joe thought it curious, sometimes unfair, but he shrugged it off. After all, there was work to be done. But he wondered why the walls never bore the likeness of someone who'd kept the farm running through the toughest of years, and who passed on secrets of land to another generation. Recognition, Joe realised, wasn't something that came easily to farmers. Their stories didn't fit neatly into headlines or half-time interviews. Their victories were quiet sort, the kind that came from patience, perseverance, and a willingness to keep going long after applauded had faded. Perhaps it was modesty, Joe thought, that set farmers apart. He knew plenty of blokes and women who'd sooner mend a neighbour's fence than accept thanks, who shrugged off praise and always gave credit to the weather, the Lord, and the sheer dumb luck. Joe himself was no different. He once lost the tip of his finger in a posthole digger. At the emergency department he sat quietly while others with sniffles and sprains went ahead of him. When the nurse finally saw the blood-soaked rag wrapped around his hand, she scolded him, but Joe just smiled. "No sense fussing," he said. "Others need help first." That was the way of farmers, tough, self-effacing, content to do their bit and to get on with it. Still, Joe sometimes dreamed of a different world, one where the best farmers gathered for a grand competition. But even if that day never came, Joe took pride in quiet victories, a bumper harvest after a string of tough years, a calf nursed to health, a paddock restored to life. Each season brought new challenges and much success, however small, felt like its own reward. Joe's days were shaped by routine and necessity, but beneath it all ran a current of purpose. From the first light of dawn until the long after the stars blinked awake, he worked the land. There was endless chores, mending fences, checking stock, tending the crops, fixing battered machinery, keeping the books. Each task was a thread of tapestry on the farm's success. There were setbacks too. A season of drought could cripple the best laid plans. Markets shifted, prices fell. Machinery broke at the worst possible moment. Yet Joe persisted. He learned to adapt, to innovate, to lean on the support of friends and family when the burden grew heavy. He measured success not in applause but in the sight of green shoots after rain, in the warmth the family gathered around the table, in the knowledge that his work fed more than just his own. Joe's leadership was quiet. He never lectured, he never forced. Instead, he showed by example through the way he greeted neighbours, the care he took with animals, the relentless optimism he maintained even when hope seemed thin. "Do your best, son," he told his elders, "and when you stumble, pick yourself up again and try again." The farm was more than a business. It was a beacon in the world that seemed to shift faster than ever. Change came as always did, new technology, shifting markets, a relentless push for modern life. But the core of farm remained steady, anchored by tradition and unspoken contract with the land. Joe found comfort in the rhythm, the way the paddock cycled from brown to green and back again. The return of the same birds each spring, the predictability, unpredictable of the weather. These patterns gave life structure and meaning, connecting the present to the past and tying the family future to something much larger than themselves. Joe's journey was not just one of crops and livestock, it was also a journey inward, a slow and steady discovery of self in a world that celebrated the bold and the brash. Joe learned the value of quiet confidence. He came to know himself not through accolades but through reflection, what he loved about the land, what he feared, what brought him joy. He encouraged his children to do the same. "Find what makes you happy," he'd say, "and don't worry if it's not what everyone else wants." He taught them to resist the pull of fleeting trends and the opinions of others, to dress and live and work in ways that felt true. "You can't plant someone else's crop and expect it to thrive," he'd grin. When doubts crept in, Joe fought them with gratitude. Gratitude became a daily practice, a way to see the good even when the challenges loomed. Over the years, Joe's inner strength grew, and with it his ability to face whatever came his way. Everyone on the farm was encouraged to express themselves. Joe's youngest loved painting the old machinery in riotous colours. His daughter played guitar by the dam on summer's evenings. Joe himself wore the same battered hat, the one his father wore before him, and took pride in the little quirks that made him, him. He told his children to embrace their own style, to enjoy their hobbies and passions, to ignore the judgment of those who didn't understand. "What matters," he'd tell them at the kitchen table, "is how you feel about yourself, not what others think." And when the others commented, sometimes kindly, sometimes not, Joe just smiled. "People throw stones at what they wish they had," he'd say. "Let them talk, you just keep walking." No farmer is an island. Joe knew that oh so well. Over the years he built a circle of friends, neighbours and family who support him through thick and thin. If a relationship left him feeling less than, he let it go. "You only got so much time," he'd say, "spend it on those who bring out your best." His home was always open, a place of shared meals, laughter and honest conversation. In times of need, help gave way freely and received gratefully. Positively was the soil in which the farm and Joe's spirit thrived. Joe's journey was uniquely his own. He watched his friend leave the land for city lights, saw trends come and go, felt pressure to change for the sake of change. But he stayed true to himself, forging ahead with kindness, strength, and an unwavering sense of purpose. Friends and neighbours sought his advice. His children took on more responsibility, adding their own ideas and energy to the land. Joe's name would never grace a memorial hall. His face would never beam from a trophy or headline. But his legacy was written in the soil, in the strong hands of his children, and in the grateful smiles of those who shared his table. There was a quiet dignity in Joe's life, one that deserved celebration. His achievements were the food on many tables, the fibre in countless clothes, the hope carried through hard seasons. He was, and always would be, one of the agriculture's modest pillars. A quiet hero whose story, though seldom told, was woven in the fabric of the land. If you ever find yourself in a country lane at dawn, look out across the fields. Somewhere, Joe the farmer or someone just like him is already at work, shaping the day with strength, humility and hope. And in that moment you might understand that the greatest stories are not always the loudest. Sometimes they're written in the dust and sweat, in laughter at sunset and the quiet confidence of a well-lived person. Sometimes they're the story of Joe the farmer, a quiet hero you never knew you needed. Okay, that was chapter 2.9, A Hero of the Land. And now we'll listen to Ken Sakata, part 3 of 4 parts, on his business of designing, based in Melbourne.
You're always in this cycle of learning, developing, iterating. What that means is you're never very secure in your ability, you're never very secure in your delivery. So you're always in these peaks and troughs. Right now, we've just released some jackets, and I'm very excited for the next version of these jackets. I think the main struggle is that you're always living in the future. Right now, you release some jackets, but that was stuff that you had worked on a year ago, 6 months ago, and you've shepherded that through manufacturing and product development, and now it's finally released. But your mind, your head is in 12 months in the future, where you've done a better version of that product, or you've done something that is more in line with your tastes, creative vision, something that's more technically complex that you are really into. So you're always like not living in the current moment. You're always kind of folding in time. That I think is a struggle. But I think it made me realize how fake jobs are in a way, because you define yourself, like I've been a doctor for 16 years, right? And you wear that so often and for such a long time that the stereotypes of this doctor stuff kind of bleeds into you, and you kind of feel like, oh yeah, I'm a responsible member of public, I'm kind of dedicated, I'm intelligent, and all this stuff that people believe about you kind of seeps into how you believe about yourself, right? And until you drastically change your career or drastically change how you see yourself, you don't realize that a lot of that stuff is not necessarily true or real or everlasting. I never thought of myself as creative. I never thought of myself as being like a public person that communicates to millions of people. That seems bizarre to me. But as soon as you kind of take on that mantle, then the other attributes of another profession start to bleed into you as well. And all of this stuff is just framing, right? It's all just like fake, I think. You really do write the story of your own life by yourself. I hate marketing. This is very ironic for me to say because my business, it survives based on marketing. But I kind of hate it as a word because there are certain connotations about it, right? Like, is this product good or is it just marketing? This just seems like in opposition to authenticity and reality, that someone can just jump in and make something seem cool when it isn't. I approach marketing to be like, this is cool. How do I let people know that it is cool, right? How do I present it genuinely that more people should know about this? That's how I view marketing. There is no better time in the history of the world to do that, because you don't need to hire an agency, an influencer, some sort of gatekeeper that you need to pay money for to reach people who are interested. Right now, we've got these social media channels and algorithms that all these interested people are out there, and you just have to put your stuff out there often enough that it'll be picked up by unseen, godly forces of the algorithm. But it's free, so that's encouraging, isn't it? You just need to present yourself often enough so that people can find you. And I think it's cringe, or I think it's embarrassing to put your face to the world and go look, I don't know what I'm doing, but isn't this cool? And it's a very vulnerable place to be in. But life's short, you will die soon. No one will remember you. I think it's time you have a little bit of fun and realize your dreams. I think when it comes to branding, people think of branding as very important. Oh, this is my logo. These are my color schemes. This is the ethos of my brand. I think that's really a waste of money. Definitely a waste of money, actually. Because in your first season, your first 2 seasons, the first 5 seasons, you have no idea what you stand for. You haven't really understood the fit between what you want to do and what your customer wants to buy yet. It's all very nebulous. So whilst branding is very important, and there are agencies out there who are willing to take your money to optimize your branding, unless the idea in your head is rock solid, crystal clear, and you have a track record of selling to people, don't waste your money on that. Your money should be going into exploring what you want to do, what people want to buy. You spending more money on, 5 failed experiments in terms of designs is way better than finding a logo by a very famous designer that you won't use into your second season because your business is dead. You know what I'm saying? So there's a time and place for those things. Someone from LVMH will spend $10 million on a logo, and that's probably well spent. But for you, I wouldn't be worried about the salad dressing if you don't have the salad, I'm going to say things that are completely unrelatable right now, I think. Depends on what your goals are, right? If you want to learn as much as you can within a finite period of time, you have to really throw yourself into it completely, like obsessively. Every spare hour should be reading something, learning something. Like, I'm 3 years into it, but the amount of time that I've spent reading, iterating with my mind on the business, could be similar to what people have done in 10 years or 5 years, because I've just completely thrown myself into it. It could be debated that the other parts of my life are in complete disarray and I'm kind of a work-life mess. You could debate that, but that's not what the question is, right? The question is, how much time should you spend on it? And my answer is all of the time. That's my answer. Completely unrelatable, not very healthy, but that's my personal answer. Yeah, it's very difficult, right? You have to know yourself in terms of whether you want to work alone or work with a partner or work for someone. And it also really has to go with your stage of life as well. I'm old, right? I'm kind of knocking the door of 40 and probably will die soon of natural causes. I'm on a timeline here. I just feel like the quickest way, I'm impatient, so the quickest way for me to realize the things I want to do is to do it myself and not ask for permission or ask for someone or wait around for someone to teach me or let me do something. For me, it's just to do it, and it's to figure out how do I do it. But that's me at 39, right? For me at 21 would be a different answer. I'll be very interested in trying to work for a company and trying to learn that way and to spend someone else's money on funding my education and getting paid at the same time. Like, that would be my interest then. So I think it depends on where you are in life, I think.
Thanks, Ken. Look forward to your last bit in a couple of days' time. And remember, life's short. Find your joy. And always remember it so you always enjoy.